Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story and it starts like this. I never thought I'd be writing one of these stories, but here I am. It's been a wild ride these past few months, and I'm still processing everything that happened. I guess I should start at the beginning. My name's Mike, and I've lived in the Whispering Pines subdivision for about 5 years now. It's a nice enough neighborhood, manicured lawns, cookie-cutter houses, the whole 9 yards. When I first moved in, I didn't pay much attention to the homeowner association. I figured as long as I kept my grass cut and didn't paint my house hot pink, I'd be fine. Boy, was I wrong. The trouble started about 6 months ago when Karen took over as homeowner association president. And yes, her name really is Karen, you can't make this stuff up. From day one, it was clear she took the role way too seriously. Suddenly, there were new rules and regulations popping up left and right. No parking on the street overnight. No basketball hoops in driveways. No flags other than the American flag allowed. It was getting ridiculous. I mostly kept my head down and tried to stay off her radar. But then came the gun incident. See, I'm an avid hunter and recreational shooter. I have a small gun safe in my home office where I keep my firearms, all purchased legally and registered, of course. I'm not some gun nut with an arsenal, just a few rifles and handguns for sport and home protection. One Saturday morning, I was out in the backyard doing some yard work when my next-door neighbor, Bill, came over. "Hey Mike," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I overheard something at the last homeowner association meeting I think you should know about." I wiped the sweat from my brow and leaned on my rake. "What's up, Bill?" He lowered his voice. Karen was going on about how she's concerned about armed individuals in the neighborhood. Said something about needing to take action for everyone's safety. And, well, she specifically mentioned you by name. I furrowed my brow. What? That's ridiculous. My guns are legal and safely stored. It's none of her damn business anyway. Bill shrugged. I know. I just wanted to give you a heads up. You might want to keep an eye out. Karen seems like she's on some kind of power trip lately. I thanked Bill for the warning, but honestly, I didn't take it too seriously at the time. I figured Karen was just running her mouth and nothing would come of it. I mean, what could she really do? The homeowner association had no authority over what I kept in my own home. I couldn't have been more wrong. A few weeks went by, and I almost forgot about Bill's warning. Then came that fateful Wednesday afternoon. I had taken a half day off work to get some things done around the house. I was upstairs changing out some light fixtures when I heard a loud crash from downstairs. My heart started racing. Was someone breaking in? I quietly made my way to the top of the stairs and listened. I could hear multiple voices and heavy footsteps. "Clear," a male voice called out. "Check the upstairs," a female voice responded. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it in the moment. Adrenaline pumping, I ducked into the spare bedroom and pulled out my phone to call cop. But before I could dial, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. "Police, come out with your hands up," a man's voice boomed. Police? What the hell was going on? I set my phone down and slowly walked out of the bedroom with my hands raised. "I'm unarmed," I called out. "What's going on here?" 2 men in what looked like police tactical gear came around the corner, weapons drawn. But something seemed off. Their uniforms didn't look quite right. "On your knees. Hands behind your head," one of them yelled. I complied, utterly confused and more than a little scared. The men roughly handcuffed me and hauled me to my feet. "What is this about?" I demanded as they led me downstairs. "I want to see a warrant." And that's when I saw her, Karen, standing in my living room with a smug smile on her face. She was flanked by 2 more men in the same pseudo-police gear. "Hello, Mike," she said coolly. "We're here to confiscate your firearms. They pose a danger to the community." I gaped at her in disbelief. "What? You can't do that. This is illegal. You're not the police." Karen's smile didn't waver. "Actually, as president of the homeowner association, I have full authority to inspect homes and remove hazardous items. It's in the bylaws you agreed to when you moved in." "That's bullshit and you know it," I yelled, struggling against the cuffs. "Let me go right now or I'm calling the real cops." Karen tisked and shook her head. Now, there's no need for that kind of language. Boys, please show Mr. Johnson here to the van while we finish our inspection." The 2 men grabbing my arms started to pull me towards the front door. I dug in my heels. "Wait," I shouted. "At least let me see your credentials. You can't just break into my home like this." Karen sighed dramatically. "If you insist on being difficult." She pulled out what looked like a cheap plastic badge. "By the authority vested in me by the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association, I am authorized to conduct this inspection and seizure. Now, unless you want to add resisting to your violations, I suggest you cooperate. I was stunned into silence as they dragged me outside and shoved me into an unmarked white van. Through the windows, I could see Karen and her goons re-entering my house. My mind was reeling. This couldn't be happening. It had to be some kind of sick joke or misunderstanding. But as I sat there, handcuffed in the back of the van, the reality of the situation started to sink in. These people had actually broken into my home and were stealing my property, all under the guise of homeowner association authority. After what felt like an eternity, Karen and her crew emerged from my house. Two of the men were carrying my gun safe between them. I felt sick watching them load it into another van. Karen approached the vehicle I was in and opened the door. "Well, Mr. Johnson, I think we're done here. You'll be receiving a formal notice of violations and fines in the mail. I strongly suggest you reconsider your lifestyle choices going forward if you want to remain a part of this community." "You won't get away with this," I growled. "I'll have all of you arrested for breaking and entering, theft, false imprisonment." Karen's smirk only widened. "Good luck with that. Remember, you agreed to abide by homeowner association regulations. We're well within our rights here." She slammed the door in my face. I watched helplessly as they drove off with my property. Once they were gone, one of the men came around and uncuffed me without a word before jumping in the van and speeding away. I stood there in my driveway for a few moments, shell-shocked. Had that really just happened? I ran inside to survey the damage. My front door was splintered where they had forced it open. Drawers and cabinets were left open, contents strewn about, and of course, my gun safe was gone. With shaking hands, I called the police to report the break-in and theft. When the real officers arrived about 20 minutes later, I gave them a full account of what had happened. They seemed skeptical at first, but after seeing the damage and taking my statement, they agreed to file a report. "I've never heard of an homeowner association going to these extremes," one officer commented, "but civil matters can get complicated. We'll investigate, but you may want to contact a lawyer as well." I nodded, still in a daze. As soon as the police left, I called my buddy Steve, who's an attorney. He was just as shocked as I was when I explained the situation. "Jesus, Mike, that's so far beyond illegal I don't even know where to start," he said. "Don't worry, we're going to nail these bastards to the wall. I'll be over first thing in the morning to get started on the paperwork." That night was one of the longest of my life. I barely slept, jumping at every little sound and half expecting Karen and her thugs to come bursting in again. By morning, I was exhausted but determined to fight back. Steve arrived bright and early with a stack of legal documents. We spent the next few hours going over every detail of what had happened and outlining our plan of attack. "All right," Steve said, tapping his pen on his notepad. "We're going to hit them with everything we've got. Breaking and entering, theft, assault, kidnapping, impersonating law enforcement, the list goes on. I'm also going to file for an emergency injunction to freeze the homeowner association's assets and prevent them from taking any further action against you or anyone else." I nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time since the incident. "What about my guns? Can we get them back?" Steve's expression darkened. "That's going to be trickier. If they've already sold or disposed of them, it could be hard to recover the actual firearms. But don't worry, we'll make sure you're compensated for their full value and then some." Over the next few days, it felt like my life had been turned upside down. News of the incident spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Some people were outraged on my behalf, while others bought into Karen's rhetoric about community safety. I even had a few neighbors tell me they thought I should just let it go for the sake of neighborhood harmony. Fat chance of that happening. Steve worked his legal magic, and within a week we had a court date set for the injunction hearing. In the meantime, I threw myself into gathering evidence and building our case. I talked to other neighbors who had run-ins with Karen, collected security camera footage from nearby houses that showed the fake police van, and dug through years of homeowner association meeting minutes and bylaws. The day of the hearing finally arrived. I put on my best suit, took a deep breath, and headed to the courthouse with Steve. As we walked in, I spotted Karen and a few other homeowner association board members huddled with their lawyer. Karen shot me a venomous glare, which I returned with a steely gaze of my own. The judge called the court to order, and Steve presented our case for the injunction. He laid out the details of the break-in, the theft of my property, and the blatant abuse of power by the homeowner association. He argued passionately that immediate action was needed to prevent further harm to myself and other homeowners. When it was the homeowner association's turn, their lawyer tried to spin it as a simple misunderstanding. He claimed that as a quasi-governmental body, the homeowner association had broad authority to ensure community safety. He even had the audacity to suggest that I was the one at fault for keeping firearms in the neighborhood. The judge, thankfully, wasn't buying it. She peppered the homeowner association's lawyer with skeptical questions and seemed visibly disturbed by their actions. After both sides had presented their arguments, she didn't take long to make her ruling. Based on the evidence presented, I find that there is a strong likelihood of success on the merits of the plaintiff's claims, she announced. The actions taken by the Whispering Pines Homeowner Association and its representatives were clearly outside the scope of their authority and potentially criminal in nature. I am granting the request for an emergency injunction. The Homeowner Association is hereby prohibited from entering any homes or confiscating any property without the express written consent of the homeowner and presence of law enforcement. I let out a sigh of relief as Steve patted me on the back. It was only a first step, but it felt like a major victory. As we left the courtroom, I locked eyes with Karen again. The smug smile was gone, replaced by a look of barely contained rage. Little did I know, things were about to get even crazier. Over the next few weeks, the story of what happened started gaining traction beyond just our neighborhood. Local news picked it up first, running segments with titles like Homeowner Association Gone Wild and Homeowners Association or Vigilante Police Force. I did a few interviews, sharing my story and warning other homeowners about the dangers of unchecked homeowner association power. The response was overwhelming. My phone was flooded with messages from people all over the country who had dealt with similar, though usually less extreme, homeowner association overreach. As public pressure mounted, cracks started to form in the Homeowner Association's United Front. A few board members quietly approached me to say they had no idea what Karen had been planning and wanted to cooperate with the investigation. It turned out she had been running the Homeowner Association like her own personal fiefdom, often making unilateral decisions without board approval. The real bombshell came about a month after the injunction hearing. I got a call from Detective Rodriguez, who had been handling the criminal investigation into the break-in. "Mr. Johnson, this is Detective Rodriguez. I think you're going to want to come down to the station. We've made some interesting discoveries in your case." An hour later, I was sitting across from the detective in an interview room, my jaw on the floor as he laid out what they had uncovered. "So get this," Rodriguez said, leaning forward. "We did some digging into the backgrounds of the men who assisted in the break-in. Turns out, 2 of them have extensive criminal records, including burglary and weapons charges. They're not allowed to possess firearms, let alone impersonate law enforcement." I shook my head in disbelief. "So Karen hired ex-cons to steal my guns? That's insane." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "It gets worse. We executed a search warrant on Karen's home yesterday. Want to guess what we found in her garage?" My eyes widened. "No way. My guns?" "Bingo," the detective confirmed, "along with firearms and other valuables reported stolen from 3 other homes in your neighborhood over the past year. It looks like she's been running quite the little operation." I sat back, stunned. Holy shit. So this wasn't just about me or some power trip. She's been using the homeowner association as cover for an actual burglary ring? "That's what it looks like," Rodriguez said. "We're still piecing it all together, but Karen is in some very hot water. We've arrested her on multiple felony counts, and we're working on rounding up her accomplices." As I left the police station that day, my head was spinning. I couldn't believe how deep this rabbit hole went. What had started as an homeowner association dispute had unraveled into a full-blown criminal conspiracy. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media attention, and neighborhood drama. Karen and her cronies were indicted on a laundry list of charges, from burglary and weapons trafficking to fraud and racketeering. Most of them ended up taking plea deals, but Karen insisted on going to trial. I had to testify, recounting the whole ordeal in excruciating detail for the jury. It was nerve-wracking being up on the stand, especially with Karen glaring daggers at me the whole time, but in the end, the mountain of evidence was too much to overcome. The jury found her guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing, the judge didn't hold back. He lambasted Karen for abusing her position of trust and turning a neighborhood association into a criminal enterprise. "Mrs. Peterson, your actions show a blatant disregard for the law and the rights of your neighbors," the judge intoned. "You have betrayed the very community you claim to be protecting. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in state prison." As the gavel came down, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was finally over. In the aftermath of the trial, our homeowner association underwent a complete overhaul. Most of the board resigned in disgrace, and a new group of homeowners stepped up to rebuild the organization with a focus on transparency and actually serving the community. My lawsuit against the homeowner association was settled out of court for a substantial sum. Steve advised me that we could have potentially gotten more if we went to trial, but I was ready to put the whole mess behind me. I used part of the money to install a top-of-the-line security system in my home. The rest went into savings and donations to organizations that help fight homeowner association abuse. It's been about a year now since everything went down. Things have mostly returned to normal in the neighborhood, though there's definitely a lingering sense of betrayal and suspicion. I still get the occasional interview request or message from someone dealing with their own homeowner association nightmare. I do my best to offer support and advice when I can. As for me, I've become something of an advocate for homeowner association reform. I've testified at state legislative hearings and worked with homeowners' rights groups to push for laws that provide more oversight and limit the power of homeowner associations. It's not a fight I ever expected to be involved in, but after everything that happened, I feel like I have to do something to prevent others from going through what I did. I got my guns back eventually, though it took months of wrangling with evidence procedures. They're stored in a new, much more secure safe now, and you can bet I keep a close eye on any homeowner association communications that come my way. Looking back, it's still hard to believe how quickly things spiraled out of control. What started as a petty power trip by one delusional woman ended up exposing a criminal conspiracy and upending an entire community. I've definitely become more cynical about the idea of neighborhood associations, but I've also seen firsthand how people can come together to fight injustice when it really matters. If there's one lesson I hope people take from my story, it's this: pay attention to what's happening in your community, and don't be afraid to stand up for your rights. Homeowner associations can serve a purpose, but they should never have unchecked power over people's homes and lives. It's up to all of us to stay vigilant and ensure that our neighborhoods are governed fairly and legally. As for me, I'm looking forward to many more peaceful years in my home, without any surprise visits from fake cops or megalomaniacal homeowner association presidents. And you can bet I'll be at every homeowner association meeting from now on, keeping a close eye on things. Some might call me paranoid, but after what I've been through, I'd say I'm just being careful. After all, you never know when the next Karen might come along, ready to take the homeowner association presidency way too far. But this time, we'll be ready. Update. It's been about 3 years since the whole homeowner association nightmare went down, and I figured it's time for an update. A lot has happened, both in my personal life and in the broader fight against homeowner association abuse. First off, I'm still in my house. After everything that happened, some people were surprised I didn't just sell and move. But this is my home, and I wasn't about to let Karen and her cronies drive me out. Plus, I've got to admit, there's a certain satisfaction in staying put and seeing all the positive changes in the neighborhood. Speaking of changes, our new homeowner association board has been a breath of fresh air. They've scaled back a lot of the nitpicky rules and focused more on actual community improvements. We've got a new playground in the park, and they organized a neighborhood watch program, a real one this time, not a cover for burglaries. I've stayed involved, attending most meetings and even serving on a committee to revise the bylaws. We put in a lot of checks and balances to make sure no one could abuse their position like Karen did. For example, any entering of homes or confiscation of property now requires a court order and must be carried out by actual law enforcement. It's sad that we even need to spell that out, but better safe than sorry. On the legal front, things have mostly wrapped up. Karen's appeal was denied, so she's still serving her 15-year sentence. Last I heard, she's been causing trouble in prison too. Apparently old habits die hard. A few of her accomplices got out on parole recently. One of them even had the nerve to move back to the neighborhood. That caused quite a stir, let me tell you. I ran into him at the grocery store a few months back. Talk about awkward. He started to apologize, but I just held up my hand and said, "Save it. You made your choices," and walked away. No point in rehashing old drama, but I'm not about to play nice with someone who helped terrorize the neighborhood. The lawsuit settlement money has been put to good use. Besides beefing up my home security, I've donated to several organizations that help homeowners fight back against abusive homeowner associations. I've also helped cover legal fees for a few folks in similar situations. It feels good to pay it forward and know that I'm helping others stand up for their rights. My advocacy work has picked up steam too. I've spoken at conferences, done more interviews, and even testified before Congress about the need for federal oversight of homeowner associations. It's slow going, but we're making progress. A few states have passed laws putting stricter limits on homeowner association powers, and there's talk of a federal bill in the works. One of the most satisfying moments came about a year ago. I got a call from a woman in Texas who'd seen one of my interviews. Her homeowner association was trying to force her to tear down a wheelchair ramp she'd built for her disabled son, claiming it violated architectural standards. She was at her wit's end, facing daily fines and threats of legal action. I put her in touch with a lawyer I know who specializes in homeowner association cases and disability rights. Long story short, they took the homeowner association to court and won big time. The ramp stayed up, the homeowner association had to pay her legal fees, and they were forced to revise their policies to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. When she called to thank me, I could hear the relief and joy in her voice. "You saved our home," she said. "I don't know what we would have done if we had to move." That call reminded me why I keep fighting this fight. It's not just about property rights. For some people, it's about their ability to live with dignity in their own homes. Of course, not everything has been smooth sailing. My story made me something of a local celebrity, which has its ups and downs. Most people are supportive, but I still get the occasional dirty look from folks who think I'm the bad guy for causing trouble. There's also been some backlash from homeowner association industry groups. They've tried to paint me as an extremist who wants to abolish all homeowner associations. That's not true, of course. I just want them to operate fairly and within the law. I've had to be careful about security too. After one particularly heated town hall meeting about homeowner association reform, I found my car tire slashed in the parking lot. Can't prove it was related, but it was a good reminder to stay vigilant. I installed cameras around my property and started varying my routines, just to be safe. On a personal note, all this homeowner association business has led to some interesting developments in my love life. About a year ago, I started dating Sarah, a lawyer I met through my advocacy work. She's brilliant, funny, and just as passionate about homeowners' rights as I am. It's nice to have someone who really gets why this is so important to me. We've talked about moving in together, but we're taking it slow. After everything that's happened, I'm a little gun-shy about making big changes to my living situation. Plus, there's the whole question of whose house we'd live in. Our place doesn't have a homeowner association, which is tempting. But I feel like if I left, it would be like letting Karen win in some way. Sarah understands, thankfully. She jokes that dating me is like being in a witness protection program sometimes, with all the security measures and potential for drama. But she's stood by me through it all, even joining me at some of the speaking engagements and strategy meetings. Looking ahead, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of homeowner associations and homeowners' rights. More and more people are waking up to the potential for abuse and demanding change. It's not an easy fight. There's a lot of money and entrenched interests on the other side. But every small victory, every homeowner who successfully stands up to bullying, gives me hope. I'm writing a book about my experiences and the broader issues with homeowner associations. It's been therapeutic in a way, putting it all down on paper. The working title is No Man's Castle: How Your Home Can Become a Battleground. My editor thinks it's too dramatic, but I think it captures the reality that many homeowners face. As for my guns, they're still here, safely stored and regularly maintained. I've taken some advanced safety courses and even started teaching a class on responsible firearm ownership at the local community center. It feels good to turn such a negative experience into something positive and educational. I've also worked with our new homeowner association board to develop a clear policy on firearms in the neighborhood. Basically, it boils down to, if you own them legally and store them safely, the homeowner association has no say in the matter. It's not perfect, but it's a huge improvement over the old regime. Sometimes, I look back on that crazy day when Karen and her fake cops burst into my house, and it almost seems unreal, like something out of a bad movie. But then I'll get another call or email from someone facing a similar situation, and it all comes rushing back. I won't lie, there are days when I get tired of being the homeowner association guy. When I just want to live my life without thinking about bylaws and property rights, but then I remind myself how lucky I am. I fought back and won. I still have my home, my guns, and my freedom. A lot of people aren't so fortunate. So I'll keep fighting this fight, for as long as it takes, whether that's testifying in court, advising homeowners, or just being a thorn in the side of abusive homeowner associations everywhere. It's not the life I expected, but it's an important one. And who knows, maybe someday, thanks to all our efforts, stories like mine will be a thing of the past. Until then, I'll be here in my house, keeping an eye on the neighborhood, and always ready to stand up for what's right. Because if there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that our homes are worth fighting for. And I'm not about to back down now. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.